Well, good morning, everyone. I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Dan Wernikoff, and I'm the founder of Champion Athletes, and I'll be handling our discussion today on nutrition. My background is in sports nutrition, and I've been working with athletes primarily between the ages of 8 and 25 for the last 30 plus years, specifically with helping them perform better through better nutrition. And joining us today is Chad Parks from Winning Mindset.
Hey, everybody. Hey, thanks for getting on. We appreciate it. My background is I'm a wrestling coach. I was a college All-American wrestler and athlete. I've also been a track coach, and I help with the track program. So for actually Track Mindset, Winning Mindset is our big company. And then we have things for every sport, and track is one of those that I help work with. So I'm excited to be on here today and to go through some mindset information with you guys.
As we're going through the webinar today, feel free to ask questions. You can ask questions in the chat box. If you don't have access to the chat box for some reason, feel free to text questions to my cell phone at 845-641-3063. And if you're interested in replaying our webinar today, there will be a recording available at the link that I provided below on YouTube. That takes us a few days to get that link up, but then the video is available on YouTube for you to share with teammates or other people that you'd like to share it with. All right, kicking off our conversation today will be Coach Parks.
All right, so whenever I'm working with athletes, and it doesn't matter if it's an individual athlete or if it's a team, I usually start off asking them this. And I speak at a lot of conferences and things like that with coaches, but I say, how much of your sport is mental? And no matter the sport, across the board, typically people say 90% or more. Every now and then somebody says 80%, but usually 90% or more of the sport is mental. And, track being an individual sport, right? It's kind of like the sport that I coach and that I did in college, wrestling. You have opponents that you're competing against, but really it's individual and team. So it's very unique. There's a lot of getting in your own head when it comes to, being a track athlete, whether you are a runner, thrower, jumping, whatever it is. So 90% of our sport is mental. Most people agree on that. The paradox here, the odd thing, is most of the time we only train 90% physical and maybe 10% mental. And I know even for me, before I really got into mindset training, as a coach, I would often kind of sprinkle some mindset stuff in. But the vast majority of what we did was physical training, right? So we're out conditioning, we're out learning techniques, things like that. If we know that it's 90% mental, it would make sense for us to really put an emphasis on training the mental side. And that doesn't happen a lot. It's becoming more and more profound, more and more known. So one of the things that we do at Winning Mindset and Track Mindset specifically is we work with track athletes on how to get their mental game right. Okay, and I'm going to go through some more of that in a moment. All right, the next slide here. These are what we call red flags. So if you are an athlete and any of these things happen to you, it should be like a red flag, like going off in your brain. Same thing as a coach, whenever you see these things happening to your athletes. We know that these are mental and we need to take care of these, but we need tools to do that as well. So some mindset red flags: giving your competition too much respect, overthinking how you feel before or during a race. You're worried about being too far behind. So again, if these things are running through your brain, then these are, we need tools and strategies. We can't say like, hey, just get over it. Tools and strategies that are going to help us be able to do that. Overthinking the weather, the course, or other factors, and then fear, fatigue before or during a race. There's nothing, if you are in a running race, whether we're running the 200, 400, or we got like a distance race, or maybe you're cross country, man, being scared of getting tired out there and gassing out, it's a real fear that a lot of people have. So we got to be able to get through that and work through that. Okay. Giving your competition too much respect. We respect everybody that is an athlete because we understand, or we believe that, hey, they're probably training as hard as we are. At high levels, this becomes part of their lifestyle. We give them respect for that, but we don't give them too much respect because, they have a big name or they've run really good times in the past. The good thing about athletics is you got to go prove it every time. So we help athletes find these red flags and then give them tools and strategies to overcome them. All right, my next slide. Okay, so what is mindset training? It is a sport-specific program, and it is systematic. All right, so it's not just sprinkling a couple of motivational things in here and there or a couple of mindset techniques in. We literally have a system. We have an entire curriculum that we use with athletes. We have a curriculum that we use with teams. So for me as a mindset coach, I have athletes all around the nation in various sports that I work with. And whenever they are part of our program, we get on and we FaceTime or we phone call, whatever, we talk. They have the curriculum and then we go through it step by step. And these are things that are actionable. All right. The athletes, they don't just sit and listen. And if I'm working with a team, they don't just sit and listen. I'm telling them things and they have worksheets that they go through and then things that they're going to be doing on a daily basis and a weekly basis and a monthly basis. And, we want to get real results. It's like strength training for your mind. And I'm going to go into that more in the next slide. And then we're performance driven. All right. We want to maximize your potential. So a lot of times we focus on wins and losses as athletes or as coaches. And if we're being 100% honest, winning is really fun, right? I've been a coach for a long time, football, wrestling, track. Winning is really fun and losing is not fun. But you can't control if you're going to win or lose. What you can control is your preparation, your attitude, your aggressiveness. And then we want to have the best performance. If you have a great performance, hopefully that's going to put you in a position to be able to win. So sometimes you may go out, run a race, and you didn't perform well, but you happen to win that day. But you're going to have to perform better next time. Okay, maybe there's going to be some tougher competition there. So we're all about performance, and we want to get real results. Okay, what mindset training is not, it's not motivational speaking. Some of these things are very motivational, but you can be motivated and then do nothing about it, or motivated for a couple of days and then fall off, okay? Not just motivational speaking. It's not therapy or counseling, even though we are working with the minds. And whenever I work with the individual athletes, there are many times we talk about what some of the kind of ingrained fears are, some of the things that they have that hold them back, but it's not specifically therapy or counseling, right? We are sport-specific mindset training. Okay, so here's how mindset training is like strength training. If you are an athlete, you're always trying to get stronger and faster and in better shape, and you're becoming more physically fit for your sport. And these days that's done year round, and it should be done year round. It's built into your practices. You have an off-season program. It's something that we're always thinking about. Mindset training should be the same way. It's something that we don't do just in season. We want to be building all the time. We want to have just like we want to have our arms strong, our legs strong. We want to have a strong body, right? You got to have a great core. We also want to have a strong mind. And for that to happen, it has to be exercise. It must be, and again, these are sport-specific exercises, okay, for your mind. So we want to take a track athlete. If you're a thrower, there may be some real common things that are red flags, like I talked about earlier. So we want to address those so that every single time you walk out and perform at your best, and you're very consistent in your performances. Okay, so this should be year-round. It's active training. Like I said a while ago, you don't just sit and listen. We have actionable steps for our athletes to take. And then we're working all these different mental muscles. So here's a few of them down here. Okay, self-knowledge. We go through worksheets. You need to learn about yourself. There are many times that we kind of know, it's like right on the edge of consciousness, but we haven't written it down. We haven't truly thought about it. So we have questions to bring those things out, and then athletes are going to learn about themselves. So self-knowledge. Goal setting that is real, that is effective, that we're actually going to utilize, not just like a New Year's resolution. All right. Mental toughness. You got to be a mentally tough athlete to be in track. That's all there is to it. Whenever you're competing against the time, whenever you're competing against other people, whenever your body is tired and hurting, you got to be able to still perform at your best. So being mentally tough is big. Motivation, being in the moment, learning how to relax under pressure, which is huge to a lot of athletes. Let nerves get to them. They freeze up under, whenever they get under some sort of pressure, and which they shouldn't. They should actually perform better under pressure. All right. Having confidence, clarity, and aggressiveness. And then beyond those things for the individual, we're working on leadership skills. The more leaders that you have in your program and on your team, or if you become a better leader yourself, now you're benefiting your team, right? We want you to be a well-rounded person, not just a great athlete, but a great human being that's going to contribute to your team, to your school, to your state, society in general. So we're going to give you leadership skills, and those also carry over into other areas of your life. And, one day whenever you're in the workplace, or if you're a coach, becoming a better leader for your team, and then teaching your team how to be better leaders. Team building skills, Injury recovery, it's something a lot of people don't talk about, but it happens, right? So got a bad hamstring, rolled an ankle, shoulder injury, something that's setting you out for a while. Teaching athletes how to focus on the things that they can do instead of worrying about the things that they can't, and all the mental games that happen to an athlete. And I know I was injured a number of times as an athlete. All the mental games that happen, being able to navigate those waters. Okay, and then the mental side of sleep. And Dan and I will talk more about sleep later, but sleep is super important for your training, super important for your mind, right? So that's when all these things that are in your pre-conscious and subconscious can either get downloaded or they kind of get pushed away so they're not overloading your brain. And then you're also able to go out and physically perform really well whenever you get adequate sleep. So we discuss that and we cover that with our athletes. Okay, so some of the teams that we work with in various sports, including track, Iowa State, Rutgers, Michigan State, Air Force, St. Cloud, Fresno State, so there's a number of them right there. High schools, these are just a few. We have high schools all around the nation. And we have also, a lot of schools, NEIA schools, junior colleges, things like that. So it's not just Division I or Division II schools that we have listed on that. So some of the best schools in the nation in various sports. And then, of course, individual athletes from all around the nation as well. All right, so this is a quick little lesson I'm going to give you guys, and it is one of what we would call like a pillar lesson for us in winning mindset. So predator versus prey mindset is what we call this. And if we were to look at this picture here, it says eyes in the front like to hunt. So predator animals have their eyes in the front, right? Think like lions, tigers, bears, oh my. All right, those are predator animals. Their eyes are in the front, they like to hunt. Eyes on the side like to hide. Animals that have their eyes on the side are prey animals, like a deer or a rabbit or a squirrel. And they're always worried about what's going on around them all the time, right? They're hiding because they're worried about getting eaten. As an athlete, we want to be that predator animal. We want to have like our objective and our goal in front of us. And everything that we do is leading toward that. And we're not looking around and getting distracted by all the other things that the world throws at us. If you look at this picture right here, it's a great example because Michael Phelps, one of the most famous athletes in history, even though this is track, we like to use his picture. It's just a great example of here he is. As humans, our eyes are in the front, right? We're predator animals. He's focused on his goal. He's focused on his race and using his techniques. His opponent, however, is focused on him, which means that he's not doing the things that he needs to do to be successful out there as an athlete. And, in track, that could easily be done. In track, you're focused on somebody else instead of exactly what it is that you need to be doing. Okay, so we like to say this, a prey mindset is your biggest foe. And the foe is FOE, right? So that is our biggest foe, like our biggest enemy. And the F stands for fan mentality. We don't want to have fan mentality as an athlete. And if you just think about outside of your sport, or even within your sport, but maybe you're a huge fan of a certain athlete, okay? And it could be within your sport. Maybe they're an Olympian and you're a high school athlete or a college athlete. You're not on that level yet. And we do work with Olympians. But maybe they're, maybe it's Allison Felix, right? So I literally named my second daughter Allison after Allison Felix, and we spelled it ALLYSON, same as Allison Felix. Okay, I'm a track nerd, right? So I love a lot of big time track athletes. If I am an Allison Felix fan and I was going to be, and I was in her division competing against her, I wouldn't want to like make her too big in my brain, right? I like to use football as an example of this because I grew up in Oklahoma. I'm a giant OU football fan. And so as a fan, I'm always looking at who are they playing? What is that team ranked? Who have they beaten? And I'm trying to figure out in my mind if OU can beat that team in football. Okay. Well, as an athlete, the OU players, they shouldn't be worried about rankings or that team's record. Like they have to go out and every day work their hardest, learn their techniques, learn their positions, and be ready for the game on Saturday. As track athletes, maybe you're going against somebody who's a returning state champion or they're an All-American. Maybe it's a team that has just this incredible history. And if you have a fan mentality and you're worried about them because of their record or the times that they've run, you are now like your mental energy and the mental calories you're burning are focused on things that are outside of your control. So we like to focus on the controllables and forget about the rest. And the things we can control are the way we prepare, the way we practice, the attitude that we have, the aggressiveness, all those things, right? So focus on what you can do, not what you can't, right? So we don't want to have fan mentality. Rankings and things like that, they don't matter. The next part of FOE, remember FOE, is others. If we're focused on others and others' opinions of us, And sometimes when this happens, it's not a bad thing on one side, and then it is a bad thing. So let me give you an example. We may be, as an athlete, I might be focused and say like, man, I need to win this race, because if I don't, I'm going to let down my coach, or I'm going to let down my mom and my dad. All right. And those are people that we love and we care about, and we don't want to let them down. But by worrying about that, again, we're burning mental energy and mental calories that we shouldn't be, because those people are going to love us regardless. Our job is to go and do our best. So we can't focus on others and their opinions of us. Can't focus on others and what their records are, kind of fan mentality. We got to focus on the things that we can do. And then the E in FO is extras. Extras are not inherently bad. All right. So when I'm working with athletes, I tell them, like, if you like video games, cool, play some video games, have a hobby, have a very positive hobby. But if it gets in the way, then now that extra has become a detriment. So if you're playing video games till 2 a.m, but you have to wake up at 6 to go to school, or you have to get up early to go and train, now it's impeded your sleep. Now your body's not recovering, your mind's not fresh, and that extra has become a detriment to you. If you're on social media all the time, and you're not taking care of business and getting your schoolwork done, or you're not, maybe your posture's bad and you're getting text neck, things like that, because you're always on your phone or always on some sort of social media, that extra has now become a negative. So we want to make sure that we keep those things in line, in order, and that we don't have a prey mentality. We have a predator mindset, which says, I'm going to live the best lifestyle possible, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to put myself in position to be successful. All right. One of my former athletes, he was a national champion in the hammer. And this young man, he was one of the most focused athletes I've ever met. But he ate right, he worked out right, he trained right, he did all the right things. And then thankfully, he ended up being a national champion. Okay. And then he was also an All-American in shot. But for him, had he done the wrong things and went off the wrong path, he wouldn't have put himself in position. So just because you do the right thing, you're not guaranteed to win a national title, but you have put yourself in a position for success. Okay, so that's predator versus prey mindset. And then the last thing here, this is a sheet that we use with our athletes a lot of times. We want you as an athlete to know, okay, here are the things that I do when I'm really successful, and here are the things that I do when I'm not as successful, so that we can always make this repeatable. We want to be able to control the controllables and repeat success. All right. So in your best races, you're treating all the opponents the same. In your worst races, maybe you overestimated somebody, you gave them too much respect, or you underestimated them. You weren't going as hard as you should because you just thought, oh, I got this in the bag, and then somebody else has a great day. All right. So all opponents, we're going to treat them the same no matter what. We're always going to have consistent intensity. No special races. That's huge. And this is big for all athletes in every sport. But if I'm going to go out and I'm going to run, maybe it's at a local high school track meet, maybe it's at a regional, maybe it's at a state meet, or maybe it's something on the national level. It doesn't matter. I want to go out, and a track's a track, my event's my event, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to perform as well as I can. There's a reason I work on my starts every day. There's a reason why I work on my technique every single day. There's a reason why I'm lifting and trying to get my legs stronger and be more explosive out of the blocks, things like that. So we don't make any special races. I've competed in national championships as an athlete before, and it can be overwhelming if you don't control your mind. And I've competed and not done well on the national scene. I've competed and done well, and I know the difference mentally of where I was at. Okay, so no special races. Let's just go out and be consistent and do our best every time, no matter what. All right. It's just running. I have nothing to lose. All right. That's during your best races. This is kind of the same thing. Or your worst race, the significance of the race. Again, come back to like, man, this one really matters. If I don't place here, I'm not going to qualify for nationals. Or I'm not going to qualify and get to go to state. Well, now you're just putting undue pressure on your brain. Your job is just to go out and relax and run. Go out and do your absolute best. All right. So those are a few of the things that we go through with the athletes. We teach those. We teach them predator versus prey mindset. We teach them how to say, like, hey, when it's two really good athletes, there are many things that they're doing equally. And so it comes down to lifestyle versus lifestyle. And my lifestyle, the way I eat, sleep, train, my mindset training, if all that is on a high level, I put myself in a position for success. So if you're an athlete personally and you're listening to this, that's where we want you at. If you're a coach, that's where you want your athletes at. And that's where we, as a track mindset program, help your athletes and your teams get to that level and succeed with that. So, all right, I'm going to turn this over to Dan, and he's going to take you into the nutrition portion.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to be back with you. So I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about nutrition, specifically about the principles that we use at Champion Athletes to help our running and track athletes. So we like this concept of the athlete food pyramid to break down the priority of how we base our program. So we start off with macros: proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Just like the building blocks of our body, if we don't have those basic building blocks in your diet, you're not going to get the results you're looking for. Then we ensure that our clients have the right amount of macros in their diet: their vitamins, minerals, fiber, water. Next, we take a look at their nutrient timing. When is the best time to eat protein? When is the best time to eat carbs? How do I time my nutrients both over a season, over a year, and then pre and post competition? Then we take a look at sport foods. Sport foods is a relatively new concept in nutrition, but they're foods specifically designed for athletes, things like protein bars, protein shakes, things like that. And then finally, at the top of the pyramid should be supplements. And supplements should be very targeted and only used in when absolutely appropriate. There's thousands of supplements on the market, but there's probably only a dozen or so that really have great value to athletes. And choosing them properly is very important. Depending on what level you're in, there may be ramifications as far as drug testing, things like that. So you really want to be careful about using different supplements. The concept of nutrition periodization focuses on the idea that sports are a marathon and not a sprint. And if you want to progress in your sport, you need to look at it over a long period of time. So for our athletes that are working with us on a yearly basis, we divide the year into different segments. And very often that's a preseason period, an in-season, and then an off-season period. And the goals of nutrition periodization are to make sure that during competition time that you can peak at your competition, but also that your body continues to grow and mature. And at each one of these phases, we'll set different goals. Some phases may be gaining muscle, some phases may be gaining weight, some phases may be leaning down and losing body fat and getting into more of your fastest time, especially for runners. We tend to do off-season of gaining muscle and getting stronger. Pre-season, we tend to lean down. And then in season, our goal is to make sure that we're maintaining good muscle mass, not losing our muscle mass during the in season. So we base the composition of our diets based on the type of season it is and what goals our clients have at that time. Now, let's spend a couple minutes talking about macros. When we talk about proteins, remember that proteins are an essential part of our diet for building and muscle repair. 20 to 70% of your diet should come from proteins. And the reason why that percentage range is so large is because it really depends on the period that you're training in. When you're in that off-season phase, which maybe a lot of you are right now because you didn't have a track season this year, your goal may be to be gaining muscle and getting stronger. And during that time, your diet should be higher in protein. Then in competition time, your diet would be usually higher in carbohydrates and a little bit lower in protein. So we manipulate these percentages based on what your goals are. Remember, protein comes from both plants and animals, and insufficient protein in your diet can lead to anemia, fatigue, higher risk of stress fractures, which are very common in running athletes, and impaired muscle growth and repair. When we talk about carbohydrates, we always like to think about brown carbohydrates. The less processed a carbohydrate is, the longer the sustained energy in your body. So when you're picking carbohydrates, try to pick things that are darker in color, like these brown kinds of carbohydrates, rather than white carbohydrates. Remember, they're your main source of energy, so we need them in your diet to give you that fast energy. Again, we manipulate the percentage in your diet. It can be anywhere from 20 to 70%. And when we mean manipulate that in your diet, I think I should emphasize the point that you could be close to 70% carbohydrates in your diet the 24 hours prior and the day of competition. And then we would increase your protein, lower your carbohydrates post-competition for muscle repair. So it's not only about the phase, but it can also be 24 hours before. It can be the day of competition. So the day of competition, you might want to be on a super high carbohydrate diet. And then as soon as competition's over, drop those carbs, go to a higher protein diet for muscle repair. Carbohydrates improve our athletic performance by delaying fatigue and allowing our bodies to compete at higher levels of energy for longer periods of time, and they're essential for muscle gain. Fats in our diet really follow protein. So we don't, unless someone has a particular problem where they don't have enough dietary fat in their diet, we're usually able to control the fat in their diet based on the level of protein. So the higher the protein, the more fat that there tends to be in their diet. Having enough body fat is essential for sustained energy, proper digestion, and hormone production. So in female athletes, we often find that if their body fat is too low, it can cause disruptions in their menstrual cycle. And in male athletes, if their body fat is too low or the amount of fat in their diet is too low, they can have difficulties producing the levels of testosterone that their bodies need to grow and gain muscle. So making sure there's enough essential fat in your diet is important. Usually about 10 to 40% of your diet would be from fat, and fats can be sourced from both animals, fruits, and avocados. A lot of times we forget about avocados as a great source of healthy fat, and beans, nuts, and seeds are great sources as well. Now, technically, water is not listed as a macronutrient, but I like to consider water a macronutrient because without enough water in your diet, you're never going to feel at your best. Water helps energize your muscles. If you're not well hydrated, excuse me, your muscles can't build and repair themselves. They make sure your kidneys are functioning properly. If you're not drinking enough water, that process of your body pulling water out and urinating doesn't take place properly. So waste products accumulate in your body and slow you down. They help maintain enough normal bowel function. There's nothing worse than going to run a race and being constipated, bloated, and uncomfortable in your stomach because you haven't been able to use the bathroom. Water definitely improves concentration. The most common cause of headaches in school-age athletes is dehydration. So I see clients all the time who come in because they've gone to their doctor, they've had all kinds of tests for headaches, and their headaches aren't better. Their doctor sends them in for nutrition evaluation, thinking maybe there's an allergy or something causing their headaches. 9 times out of 10, once we increase the water in their diet and we make a really strong effort at drinking water throughout the entire day, their headaches go away. It also improves your skin and appearance, and especially if you're a teenage athlete, that's always something we're concerned about. So water is going to improve your physical appearance as well. On to our micronutrients. So micronutrients are all the vitamins and minerals in our diet. They also include the omega-3 fatty acids. So as you're building your diet, as you're considering what you should be eating, you want to make sure that you're getting all these vitamins and minerals in your diet on a regular basis. One mineral that's really important, especially for runners, is iron. And there's a situation called athletic anemia, which is when you have a low iron, and it's from running a lot, and the capillaries on the bottoms of your feet actually break, and red blood cells leach out of the bottoms of your feet. So athletic anemia causes fatigue, shortness of breath, and weakness. So if your performance is kind of dimmed and you're not really sure why, increasing the amount of foods with a high iron content in your diet can very often correct that. So we're always looking at our running athletes to see if they have the potential for having low iron or athletic anemia. When you're choosing foods in your diet that are high in iron, here's some really good examples of foods you want to include in your diet. Many athletes are switching from a general like meat diet to wanting to go vegan or vegetarian. So if you do that, that's fine, but you're going to eliminate red meat, which is a great source of iron. So you need to make sure you're getting in enough dark green leafy vegetables and enough legumes in your diet to compensate for that. Okay, so now I've decided that I want to change my diet and I want to make some changes in my body. How do I do that? Where do I start? So you want to start off with a body composition analysis, and this is something you can do with a nutritionist like myself. Many gyms often have scales that will do a body composition analysis for you, or there are even some apps that you can do it for free on the internet. But a body composition analysis is going to tell you not only what you weigh, but what those components of your weight are. So what is your weight? How much of that weight is fat? What's your body fat percentage? How much is your muscle mass? What's the status of your hydration? And what's your BMR? BMR is your basal metabolic rate, which means if you laid in bed for 24 hours and did absolutely nothing, how many calories your body needs to maintain your current weight. Based on that information, you can now set some goals. Do I need to increase my body fat? Am I too lean? And that's causing me to have difficulties with my hormones, developing muscle, staying strong, especially in a long distance race. Do I have enough fat to keep my body functioning properly? Where's my muscle mass? Am I too bulky? Do I need to lean down a little bit? Do I need to gain muscle? And how can I change my diet to improve my energy and endurance? So ideal running weight is a unique concept for running athletes, and it's really the perfect balance between having enough muscle to generate powerful running strides. So shorter distance, faster athletes need a higher level of muscle so they can power through those very quick races. They need to have enough energy for you to fuel your workouts and recover. And they also need to reduce the amount of excess weight to make you more efficient. And as I was putting my information together for you, I thought many of you might be interested in this link. This is actually a running weight calculator. So you put your personal statistics into this calculator, and it's going to tell you what your ideal weight would be depending on what your races are. Now, again, this isn't 100%. Depending on where you are with growth and puberty, you may need to make some adjustments to this. But I thought this calculator was really kind of cool and an interesting thing you may want to play with and see how you compare to where the calculator puts you. Now, once you've made some decisions that you want to change with your diet, what do you do to do it? You need to start off with calories. So we told you how to calculate your basal metabolic rate. You then want to add to that a number for daily living, like going to school or hanging out with your friends, kind of regular life. And then you want to add numbers for all the physical activity that you're doing. And you can download and look up on the internet different tables that'll tell you that if you run for an hour, at what pace, how many calories you'll be burning during those activities. So you want to add that all up and get a grand total. Once you know the number of calories you need to have per day, that's your metabolic rate. That means that if you ate that number of calories, your weight would stay the same. Let's say that number is 2,000. If you wanted to gain weight, you're going to need more calories. And if you want to lose weight, you're going to need less. But how you break down those calories is what's going to affect how you feel and also what ultimately happens to your body. So if your goal is to gain muscle, then you want to make sure that the percentage of protein, so as you're breaking up those calories, the percentage of protein is going to be higher. The percentage of carbohydrates is going to be a little bit lower, and the percentage of fats is going to be in the middle. If you're trying to lose weight, lose excess body fat, you probably still want to have a little bit higher protein, kind of medium carbohydrates, and medium to lower fat. Now, if your goal is to get stronger, but maintain where you are, you're happy with your body composition, then very often we'll do an equally based plan, like 40%. Excuse me, my allergies are acting up a little bit on the East Coast here. Like 40% protein, 40% carbohydrates, and 20% fat. Make sure your diet has all the micronutrients we talked about, that you're getting enough water and hydration. A good number, if you're looking to calculate how much water you should be drinking per day, is 3/4 of an ounce per pound, is a really good way to think about it. And then timing. When should I be eating proteins? When should I be eating carbs to maximize performance and help me get the most out of the nutrients I'm having? This is just a sample meal plan and how we create meal plans at Champion Athletes. This happens to be a 2,000 calorie plan. And when if you work with a nutritionist, if you want to work with us, or if you do it by yourself, make sure that your meal plan meets those performance objectives for this period of time. For either gaining muscle, leaning down, whatever it is, make sure that your meal plan is going to meet those objectives. The advantage of using a meal plan is that it's very predictable. If you want to gain weight, you can gain weight at a very predictable rate. If you want to lose weight, the same thing. You're going to make sure that all your macronutrients are in there every day, that all your micronutrients are in there every day at the right amount, that you've made sure you're getting enough water every day. And by using a plan like this, it reduces stress and anxiety because you don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry, did I get enough protein in today? Did I get enough carbohydrates today? Did I overeat today? A plan is going to do the work for you. So you take the time to build the plan and then you use it to help you. Now, in competition, we always make sure that our athletes hydrate. So water is always the gold standard. There's Pedialyte, there's Gatorade. More recently, we've been recommending these super hydrating substances or supplements for many of our clients. The right stuff was developed by NASA to help the astronauts rehydrate when they come back from space. And many of our college and high school high-performing athletes are using it. You add it to either water or Gatorade, and it's much more hydrating than regular water by itself. And liquid IV is similar to that as well, another additive you could consider trying. Now, that I'm always asked questions about what should I be eating the morning of a race? What should I be eating the day of competition? So especially in the morning, we like our athletes to eat something, but we want them to eat lightly. So something with a liquid protein is going to be absorbed much faster in your body. So liquid and carbs, protein and carbs of a liquid are going to be absorbed much faster and be able to be used by your body much better than solid food. So we always recommend you start off your day with either a protein shake. These Core Powers are nice because they're convenient. They're pre-made so you can travel with them, so they're great. If a milk-based kind of protein may upset your stomach in the morning, we often recommend Triminio, which is a water-based protein. And again, it's portable, easy to take with you. And as you're choosing foods for you to be eating, I think this picture gives you some really good examples. So some protein bars, granola bars, bagel, whole wheat bread, maybe some peanut butter crackers, nuts, some fruit. Those are all good options for you to be packing with you to take. Don't depend on what's available at a venue for you to eat or what's available in your area. You spend a lot of time preparing for competition, and you should take a few minutes to prepare your food because that's one of the things you can control and make sure you're ready for competition. In competition itself, if you're going to be having multiple races throughout the day, you want to make sure that you're fueling and hydrating in between those races. So you have those hydrating things available we talked about. And you also have different things available to eat throughout the day. So some examples might be after your first race, have a protein bar and 6 ounces of water. Then after your second race, have a turkey sandwich and a banana. Depending on timing, you want enough time for the food to settle. You don't want to feel uncomfortable or bloated, but you want to make sure you're giving your body energy throughout the day and you're fresh for each race that you're going to run. This is a sample of one of our competition day plans. This is based on 2,500 calories. This example happens to be for a wrestler, but it could apply to really any sport. Instead of that after weigh-in, this might be your breakfast. Then after match one would be after your first race, after your second race, and so forth during the day. So at Champion Athletes, we help our clients through taking them through this process. We begin with a very detailed assessment to understand what their nutritional needs are. We build customized meal plans for them to make sure they're meeting those nutritional needs and their body's moving towards their goal. And then we coach our athletes to support them to make sure that the plans are working efficiently, that they're seeing the changes that they're looking for, that their bodies are moving in the direction we want them to go in, that their race times are dropping, their energy's increasing, all the objectives that we set when we do the assessment. And then we periodically repeat the assessment, change up the plans, and repeat the process because everybody's body is always evolving. You're gaining muscle, you're leaning down. However your body's changing, it always needs to be adjusted. So that's the point of using a periodized nutrition plan, working with a nutritionist is to help you navigate as your body changes. All right, we'd like to open it up to questions now. Feel free to type any questions in the chat box. You can also text questions to my cell phone at 845-641-3063. And I also just put the link up again if anybody wants to copy it down so that you could download the webinar at a later time if you'd like to. So please feel free to type in any questions now for either Chad or myself, and we'd be happy to answer them for you. Joe Murray asked a question. Can you put up again the website for Ideal Weight Calculator? Sure. For cross country, how long before a race should athletes stop eating? So personally, I think that that's a very individualized question. Some athletes do better eating something maybe up to 30 minutes before. I've had other athletes that really need to stop eating about 2 hours before. And it also depends on what they're eating, not just if they're eating or not. So I think there's two things to this question. What we do at Champion Athletes with our clients is we test whatever we recommend for them. So we're going to test the foods that they're going to eat, and we're going to test the timing. So let's say you're going to have a practice where you're going to run your race. What I would do is pretend it's an actual competition. Eat exactly the same food, maybe an hour before, that you think would be good to eat. Run your race, see how you feel. Did you feel good? Did you feel uncomfortable? Did you feel bloated? Did you feel hungry? Then tweak the foods and tweak the timing. If you felt hungry, maybe eat a little closer to the race. If you felt uncomfortable, maybe some of those foods didn't agree with you. You need to choose some other foods. So it's a combination of all things. What foods am I eating? How soon before racing should I eat? And do they agree with me as an individual? So there really isn't one specific answer. But generally, our clients don't eat more than 30 minutes, are done eating within 30 minutes of a race or longer. Should you add sodium to water depending on how many pounds of sweat you lose while working out? So I generally don't recommend adding sodium in particular. We do encourage many of our clients, especially running athletes, to use Himalayan or pink salt in their diet, which helps them retain more water and also retain minerals a little bit better. And then we recommend these hydration supplements rather than sodium by itself. If you do have someone who's a particular heavy sweater, with those clients, we actually do a sweat test. So what we do is we have them come into our office. We do a specialized weight, which also tells us the percentage of water in their body, how many pounds of water they have. Then they go through a graded treadmill test. So they're running on the treadmill with different intervals, and we're increasing the rate, the speed, and the degree of the incline on the treadmill periodically. And they go until exertion. Anything they consume during that time while they're running, we measure it. And if they have to use the bathroom at all at the end of the race, we measure their urine output as well. Then they get reweighed, and the scale is going to tell us how much water has changed in their body. And that tells us actually how much water they tend to lose and what degree of a sweating person they are. And then we can make specific recommendations to deal with their hydration. But generally, those are saved for people who either have a lot of issues with muscle cramping or are particularly heavy sweater people. Let's see, we have another question here from Rosemary. Can I get the PowerPoint on nutrition? Yes, absolutely. If you just wouldn't mind, let me switch to another slide. If you could just, rather than put your email address here, because I'm not sure I'll be able to pull it out, if you could just send me an email to info@champion-athletes.com, I'll be happy to send you the PowerPoint slides. And anyone else who'd like the PowerPoint slides, we make them available to you. Just send us an email to my email address, and I'll take care of that. Advise on fueling during a track meet when the meet is delayed and the time delay is unknown. Kathleen, could you be a little more specific what you mean by that? Do you mean like if it was supposed to be like a 3 o'clock start time and then it got delayed because of the rain or something like that? So generally what we do is every situation is going to be a little bit different. To be on the safe side, I would recommend like slowly drinking water, slowly hydrating during that time. If you think it's going to be longer than an hour, maybe you want to do some small grazing. So maybe you want to have like a piece of a granola bar, piece of a protein bar, something like that. But I would definitely advise not having large meals or a large amount of food, especially if the race could start at any minute. So generally, if you're kind of snacking on some things, eating lightly, slowly hydrating, it's not going to affect your performance, even if you have to start again in the next few minutes. But that would be my recommendation, especially if you don't know about the delay. Any other questions that either Chad or myself can answer for you? Feel free to ask questions about mindset as well. We're both here to answer any questions we can for you. Yes, the PowerPoint slides are available to everyone. I just need you to send me an email to info@champion-athletes.com, and then I will reply to you with copies of our slides. And just so you know also, both Winning Mindset and Champion Athletes are available for private webinars with your team specifically. So you can schedule those with either Winning Mindset or myself. If you want about mindset, you can schedule with them. If you want it about nutrition, you can schedule with them. And then we can do more of like a team presentation and a private webinar just for your team and your parents. How do you deal with parents who get in their kids' heads? Chad, that's definitely you, buddy.
Yep. So a couple things on this. So being a coach, I've definitely dealt with this. And then, of course, dealing with a number of athletes. So on the parent side, it's nice if we can educate the parents too. So there are times where I have to go to a parent and talk to the parent. And, of course, you want to do that in a very tactful way. But let's focus on the athlete side because that's who we have more direct contact with if you're a coach. So we teach the kids strategies. And we literally have a paper where or a couple of different lessons, but where we go over this, okay? Outside distractions or things that would get to you. And this is a very common, right? Parents are saying, you got to do this, this, and this, or here's who you're competing against and all these things. And the kid starts to freak out mentally. So you need to talk to the kid ahead of time and make sure that okay, this is going to be a very common situation. It's something that we're going to have to deal with. So what are we going to do? All right. Teaching the kid to learn to compete for themselves. All right. You're competing for your team, but you're not competing. And often I tell my athletes this, right? I talk to them about it and I tell the parents this. It's your journey, the athlete. It's your journey. You're the one, if you place, you're the one who brings home the medal. You're the one who's doing the training. It's your journey. Okay. So I understand that we all want mom and dad to love us and care about us. And sometimes they go about that in the wrong way and it gets in our head. So we have to just realize I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this because I want to do this and I love this sport and it's my journey. So no matter what they say, I'm not going to be rude to them. And sometimes they have to actually teach the kids to tell mom and dad, like, hey, I appreciate you trying to help me out. But when you do this, it really bothers me. It really gets in my head and I can't perform to the best of my ability. So empowering the kid to do that. But then also sometimes mom and dad still don't listen, right? Because again, they care. They just don't know how to go about it. So then you're telling the kid, okay, we're not going to worry about that. We're not going to focus on that. Your focus is on your technique. Your focus is on coming out here and being with your teammates, enjoying the process, all those things. And so they've literally mentally made a decision ahead of time, knowing mom and dad's probably going to talk to them. And we know through studies, the worst time for an athlete is the car ride home, right? So when they're riding home, a lot of times mom or dad are talking, the kid's going crazy. All right. So, but giving them strategies just like that so they can literally talk to mom and dad about it, okay, or just make the decision ahead of time. Even if what they say is hurtful or it's bothersome or whatever, I'm not going to let that worry me because I know that this is my journey and I'm the one going through the process. I'm the one who keeps the medal at the end of the day. I'm the one who contributes to my team. So those are a couple ways that we deal with that. Next question, what's the best way to get out of your own head and what are some techniques to improve the mental side of training? And, we have a lot of things on that that we go through during our curriculum. Okay. But so I'll give everybody here a real quick technique. And this works with dealing with parents too. Somebody's in your head. So we call this the reset button. And once you know the reset button, it's funny because you'll watch a lot of high level athletes and you'll see them do this. Okay. And I'll give you a quick overview of what the reset button is. But this is literally a way for me to teach the athlete to reset their brain. And so you can't focus on two things at once. Now, you could have things in your conscious that you're aware of, but then there are things in your pre-conscious and subconscious and things that are back there kind of floating around. But what we're literally focusing on, you can only focus on one thing at once. So my focus is on stress and worry and what if I get beat? I'm in my own head, right? we need to snap out of that. So it's almost like if you saw like an old movie with like the Three Stooges and, you know, one of them's freaking out and the other one smacks them in the face. Well, don't smack them in the face. But we need to have a physical anchor, and then we also have a verbal anchor that we have the athletes come up with on their own. So a verbal anchor may be anywhere from 1 to 3 words, and it's something that's motivational for them. All right, maybe it's something that the coach already says to them. Maybe it's something in their own head. It could be as simple as "let's go," but they're literally going to say it aloud, and then they're going to do a physical anchor that only know that they know what they're doing. And it may be like reaching over and smacking their arms. All right, it may be reaching down and tapping their shoelaces. It's something physical. So when they see, and where I do this with my athletes, I'll just tell them, I call it get in the blue. Instead of yelling reset, I'll just say, or you could yell reset, but I'll say get in the blue. And then they're going to use their reset button. All right. So now they're going to say their verbal, they're going to do their physical anchor. Now their brain went from being focused on fear and anxiety or whatever it was that was holding them back mentally to being back in the moment. And now, as soon as they're back in the moment, they can refocus and reset. Now they can say like, hey, here, and we got to practice it ahead of time, but here are the things that I should be thinking about. All right. I'm thinking about my start in the blocks. I'm thinking about exactly how I'm going to warm up. So no matter what track I'm at in America, I can warm up the exact same way, controlling the controllables. All right. So those are a few ways to help kids get out of their head. But the reset button is so powerful, and don't just use it in competition, use it in practice as well. And I want to practice the reset button. So when it is competition time and nerves and everything are on higher levels, that you could just say reset or get in the blue, whatever it is you want to say. Like for us, we just kind of use that as a code word. And then the athlete knows what it means, but they've already practiced that in the weight room. So if we're having a really tough workout, I may stop and say, get in the blue. Or I may stop and say, reset. And then they have to verbally say their verbal cue, do their physical anchor. And then now they reset, they practice focusing and resetting their brain. And then when you get in competition time, they're able to do that as well. And sometimes that's before, and then sometimes it could be during. If I'm running and somebody passes me, I may literally, like while I'm running, let's say I'm running the mile. Okay, so something a little bit longer. We're not going to do this in the 100 probably, but if I'm running the mile and somebody passes me and I'm starting to break mentally and I'm starting to have doubts, I might have to reset. So I may have to real quick say something under my breath, get my mind refocused, and then now I'm thinking about exactly what I'm doing while I'm out there, and I'm not worried about all these things I can't control. So hopefully that's a good little quick breakdown for you.
Any other questions that Chad or I can answer for you before we wrap up today? All right, with no other questions being typed in, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up our presentation today. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us, and for more information, don't hesitate to reach out to Chad or myself. We're happy to help you in any way we can. Coach, any final thoughts?
No, hey, everybody, thank you so much for getting on. We appreciate it. And again, make sure that you contact us via our websites there. And if you're a social media person, you can jump on Track Mindset, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and follow us there. You can see all the info for Champion Athletes on the screen as well.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you very much.